Hello and welcome along to Betting Weekly Game Bet Match, the tennis betting podcast brought to you in association with Bet Rivers. It's Wednesday. We're looking ahead to tonight's matches on Wednesday. It's a special edition here on Betting Weekly Game Bet Matches because we haven't done any matches for the third round yet. So we've got a nice position to be able to preview all of the second round matches. If you saw the show yesterday on Tuesday, you would have seen our first five picks, our first five matches, and you would have seen the picks from the man to the left of me. It's Sean Calvert, our senior handicapper. Left or right, I'm not quite sure where it is going to be when you see it.
I'm not sure which either.
Well, I can see you on the left. You might be on the
At
right.
the minute, you're on the top and I'm on the bottom, but...
Well, I want to say I'm the man on top of Sean Calvert, but to the left sounds a lot better. But it's our senior ATP Tour handicapper, Sean Calvert. Sean, good morning to you, sir. You look very refreshed and well.
Morning, yeah. It's quite early, isn't it?
Kids must have gone to sleep. Okay for you. Give you a nice.
Feels like we only did this about 12 hours ago, but it's probably slightly longer than that. No, Lagan's gone to football camp today, so he goes every day, but it's 10 till 3, and he's up at about 6 or 6, so he's got like 3.5 hours of mayhem before he actually goes to the football, and then only gets it's actually worse than obviously being at school because it's very short hours. He's back at 3 o'clock, but he's going to a mate's house today, so I've got a bit longer to do stuff for once.
Party poppers, balloons up,
something like that. Yeah,
get the old beers up. Lovely. Good winner last night for us from Diallo. We picked Diallo here on the show at plus 160. It was a remarkable drift for him though in the market. He went out to like one plus 180 at one stage. I couldn't believe it. Obviously, with Dan Evans, we said that he may have that lull after winning in Washington. It was a bit of a surprise, that market, wasn't it?
I think a few of them have sort of drifted. I don't actually mind a drift, to be honest. A lot of people they get a bit panicky when they see the price go in the opposite way to the way that they've seen it or called it, and it doesn't normally bother me because the amount of times I've seen a player drift and he still won. I suspect it's probably the market. Maybe some people saw Evans in practice. Maybe he looked pretty fresh in practice, and that information is filtered back, and it's that kind of situation that's arisen. But I don't know. That's the most likely cause. But whatever it was, I'm happy to take it. Happy to obviously that people have got a bigger price, and people will have got a better price than we initially said. So that's fine.
Nice winner for us. I think it was plus 163. So that takes our profit to plus 7.44 units, which is we're still in the black and looking quite good heading into the latter stages here in Toronto. It's round 2. We spoke about the matches yesterday. If you haven't seen that podcast, it'll be available on the YouTube channel. Have a look at that, and they'll give you the early matches, and they're going to preview the later matches. But before we go into the matches, let's look at the latest outright odds, because they may have an opportunity when this goes live to play on the tournament winner market. Carlos Alcaraz, the world number 1, he's the favourite at plus 125. Our pick, Daniil Medvedev, is come down in the betting. He's now down to plus 350. Alexander Zverev, my pick, is now 10 to 1. Stefanos Tsitsipas 11. Yannick Sinner 11. Andrei Rublev 18. Holger Rune 20. Casper Ruud 20. Taylor Fritz 20. And Herbert Hurkacz, last year's beaten finalist, he's 30 to 1. Let's talk about Carlos Alcaraz. You've got to talk about Carlos Alcaraz. He's the world number 1. He's the player that everyone's coming out to Toronto to see this week. It's a little bit quicker today than what it was. What do you think of conditions for Alcaraz in plus 125? We've made the case that the top half is loaded, but there's money come for him. It was plus 140 when we spoke at the early part of the week.
I'm just looking at the draw now, actually, and I'm just filling in the draw sheet from the players that have got through. This is not an easy route for Carlos Alcaraz, is it? He's got Shelton, which we'll talk about in a minute. Then he'll probably have Hurkacz. So two big servers there. Then he might well play Holger Rune. That's obviously not going to be easy, and that's just to get to the semi-finals where he might be facing possibly a Tsitsipas, possibly a Corda, a Sinner, Berrettini. That's and you want to back him at what was he 2 point
plus 125,
plus 125? Yeah, he might win it. Obviously he's the outstanding player at the minute, but it's a big ask. You got to remember he hasn't played on hard courts for a while. I think he played Hopman Cup, didn't he, after Wimbledon on the clay. And now he's coming here with the mantle of Wimbledon champion on his back. I know he won the US Open before, but Wimbledon is a little bit different. It has a slightly bigger cachet, doesn't it? If you're Wimbledon champion, all the press are on you all the time. It's a big thing, and he might well win this tournament, but not that. I can't have that price in these conditions, given the situation against this field. I'm much happy to be on Medvedev, who looks to have a much easier route, and similarly for Zverev.
And also, it's not a tournament that favourites have done very well in traditionally. It's a tournament that they've struggled in the past, and plus 125. I think he's played it once before. He played one match. He got beaten in one match by Tommy Paul.
Yeah, but he's not played. That was in Montreal. He's not played in Toronto.
So he's never played here in the tournament.
Never played this tournament.
Plus 125 is. I mean, I'm a big fan of Alcaraz. I am. I bet him 2 years ago to win the Australian Open at massive prices. But I honestly do believe that the market has gone a little bit crazy on him in terms of the outright markets. I think he is, and I'm doubted with talent. It's going to be multiple majors, but I think it's very disrespectful some of the others in the draw. He's ahead of them at the moment, but I think at plus 125 in tournaments like this, I think that's just ludicrous, really. If you are going to take it and you cash, well played to you. But I think if you bet Alcaraz at plus 125 in tournaments like this, you will lose long term. That's my personal opinion on it.
Yeah, I agree. I just think, he's the most likely winner, obviously, but that's, you've got to bet at the right price, haven't you? And that, for me, that's not the right price.
Well, is he the right price to win his match? He plays in the second round later this evening up against Ben Shelton, the American, who's not had the best of form at all. It's, he's turned that round. He's had a good win in the first round here, but he's a player that has got a lot of talent. But I question whether we got a little bit excited about him too early. Carlos Alcaraz is a ludicrously low favourite here. He's plus a high favourite. In America they say high. In the UK we say low. So it's a high favourite in America at plus 1,115. Ben Shelton is plus $7. The spread here is 5.5. We think that Shelton might be popular on that. He's minus 137. Alcaraz minus 5.5 is plus 107. The total seems relatively low here at 19.5. I mean, this is the first time Alcaraz has played on this court. He's got to get used to the conditions. Shelton obviously is a big server, as we said, but Alcaraz is 10-1 this year. Shelton did have that win against Zapata Morales to end the 3-match losing streak. It's a tall order for him to beat the world number one, but he can cause him problems here, can't he?
He can on his best form, yeah. He just isn't in his best form at the minute, unfortunately. He wasn't good again last night against Zapata Morales. I mean, that's if you're Ben Shelton, and you're looking at a round one opponent, and you got Zapata Morales, who's an out-and-out clay dog, you'd be pretty happy with that draw. But he really struggled through it. He didn't serve well again. He hit 5 aces and 6 double faults. Didn't serve particularly high percentage. Not good off the ground. He won 84% actually on his first serve, Alcaraz, but only 33% on his second serve. So Alcaraz, Shelton won 84% on his first serve against Zapata, but only 33% on his second serve. So not playing well off the ground. A night match you wouldn't have thought would help him either. Be slightly slower. He just isn't playing well at the minute, Shelton. If he was playing that Australian Open form at the minute, I'd quite fancy him to do something here, because Alcaraz obviously hasn't played for a little while. Lost his only match in Canada. Never played in Toronto. Yeah, I think it's a difficult one for Shelton. I think Alcaraz should win this, but looking at the stats, Alcaraz this season on outdoor hard, 10-1, win-loss, 112, service points won, return points won total. Shelton, 7-8 and 99. So on that, I think it's tough to really go with Shelton. Over 10.5 in set one, 3.95 with Bet Rivers. That's possibilities, but he's got to serve a lot better.
Yeah, I'm quite like the over 19.5 in the match. If I was going to have a bet on this match, I'd probably like to see how Shelton starts, but I think it's quite low though. I'm over 19.5. It's a heavy favourite, minus 141. The under is the underdog at plus 110. But I don't know. I think Shelton may give him a match, especially in the first set, and then Alcaraz will
on his best form. I think, yeah. Sorry, mate. Yeah, on his best form, his best serving form. I think it could be tricky for Alcaraz, but on the form that we've seen from Shelton recently, it's hard to be really confident about, and that's the problem.
That match, as Sean said, there is an evening match. It starts 7 p.m. Eastern time tonight on Wednesday. So these matches we're previewing here are tonight, not usually the day, but in the day of ours. We can't predict or can't actually give you any matches on Thursday's order of play because we don't know it yet. So we're going to fill up with the remainder of the second round draw for the late matches. If you want to see the early matches, like I said, it's on the podcast earlier, which is on our Twitter feed at Because We Win. So check out that. For the early matches, these are the late evening matches. The next match is 8:20 p.m. Eastern time. It's Marcus Giron up against Holger Rune. Holger Rune is -$5. Marcus Giron is +360. The spread here is 4.5 with Giron -130 and Rune +102. The total is 21.5 here on the total games. They've met once before, and surprisingly, Marcus Giron, the American, actually won that match on Wimbledon. It's very easy last year, 2022, 6-3, 7-5, 6-4. There has been a little bit of money around for Giron to win this match. He has come down from an opening line of $4, now down to +360. Holger Rune, jury's still out. I know you're not 100% sure on Holger Rune with his fitness and conditioning, probably more so on majors, but do you think there's a potential of a shock here?
Yeah, I think Giron's got a decent chance. Rune's had back problems since Wimbledon. I'm not sure why he played the Hopman Cup because he wasn't fit with that back problem. Then pulled out of UMAG. Not sure how much full power hitting he's done lately. He was hitting incidentally with Caroline Wozniacki recently. And 10 days ago, he said, I hope I'll be fit to play in Toronto. So doesn't sound particularly great for Holger Rune. So a chance for Giron here, potentially. He went fair Rune, as he said. He was a 1.86. That's -116 favourite to beat Rune at Wimbledon. Should be a decent test, this, for Holger Rune. You know, Giron, 4 matches under his belt on a hard court. A good win over Rusevori last night as well. In terms of the stats, Rune's 4 points ahead in terms of the service points won, return points won total this year on hard courts, outdoor hard. Giron's taken sets off top 20 opponents in 4 of his last 7 matches in the last 12 months. So he's more likely than not to take a set off a top 20 opponent on this surface in the last last year or so. So for me, I think this is too short. I would have priced Rune at about sort of 1 to 3-ish for this rather than sort of 1 to 2. I think he's taking a lot on trust with a guy who's not played since Wimbledon. Clearly got a back injury. Has he been able to hit properly? I doubt it, because he was saying, I hope I'll be fit for Toronto. It might be the case that he comes in here and he plays brilliant and he wins, but that price is far too short for me. Giron's obviously much more match fit, match attuned, match sharp than Holger Rune. So plus money, plus 128. My bet for today is Giron to win a set here. I think he's got a reasonable chance.
Plus 128. There's 28 different markets available on the Bet Rivers website, and Sean has picked that bet as his best bet of the day. Plus 128, Giron to get a set against Holger Rune. You can also go with the handicap. As I say, it's 4.5 start for Giron, -130, and you can move the little toggle around on the website and get it down to 3.5 or 5.5, whichever way you like to play on the handicap. There's, like I say, 28 different markets. If you place that bet, what Sean suggested there, or any other bet, you can watch that match live on the Bet Rivers website on your preferred tablet or your computer or laptop. Next one, Sebastian Corda, the man that we've been on, I think 3 of the last 4 matches he's played, and he's lost every single one. He ends a 4-match losing streak against Etcheverry. He played well against Etcheverry. Admittedly, Etcheverry is not his favourite surface. He plays Alexander Vukic, the dangerous big serving Australian here. Corda is -295. Vukic is +230. The spread is 3.5. Corda is -112, giving up 3.5. Vukic is -114. The total is 22.5 with over the favourite, the underdog, sorry, -106, and under the favourite at -121. Corda's form really poor since Wimbledon. Vesely defeat, Shevchenko defeat. Do we read too much into that Etcheverry win, or was it a win against a player that just couldn't play on the conditions? Always Corda back as a main threat this week.
I think he's definitely a threat. No, might look, he'll probably win the tournament, having backed him a couple of times recently, and he's kind of failed. I think this is going to be, I think the Etcheverry match was decent for him, decent opponent, but he served much better, 70-odd%. It's way, way better. Looking at this match, Corda's beaten him twice a few years ago. The head-to-head, his head-to-head's really close though, considering it's 2-0. In terms of the service points won, return points won totals, Corda 101, Vukic 99. So really close. And the only real difference in those 2 matches was that Corda took 63% of his breakpoint chances, and Vukic only took 36% of his chances. So it was just Corda being better on the bigger points. Vukic won 79% of his first serve points in those 2 matches, and one of them was played on clay, remember? So strong serving performance from Vukic, as you would expect, and winning a lot of the points on his first serve. So on a day where it's expected to be sunny, expected to be warm, I know they're playing slightly later in the day, but it should be around about 5, 6 p.m. Local time, when it's still going to be about 25, 26 degrees, and the courts will have been warmed up all day. So it's the quickest conditions that we've seen so far in Toronto, because it's been very sort of damp and a bit humid and consequently slightly slower. If you look at the stats for this season, a main level and outdoor hard, Corda, very good stats, 9-3 win-loss and a 104 service points won, return points won total, which kind of illustrates why I've tried to be with him when it's been the case to do so in certain tournaments. We've just been unfortunate that he's not produced at the times when he should have done or could have done. Vukic's stats 6-6 win-loss and 100, so decent stats from Vukic. And on those stats, Corda wins the same number of service points as Vukic, but 4% more. Corda wins 4% more on return. So the only difference is that Corda returns better than Vukic, which you would probably figure anyway from looking at their styles of play. Vukic is he's been a little bit difficult to sort of read this week. He lost to Schwartzman in qualifying, then came back in as a lucky loser and beat Coric in straight sets. So very varied form there from Vukic. So far this season, both have held serve 85 and 86% of the time. So in quick conditions, we know Vukic's serve is effective against Corda. So the over 10.5 in set one at 3.1 plus 210 with Bet Rivers would be my lean for this one. I think it'll be one that Corda will probably just edge, but I can't imagine it'll be comfortable for him.
The final match we're going to talk about is the first match on court of these 4 matches that we are speaking about here on the podcast, and that is a 4 p.m. start Eastern time. It's Max Purcell up against Andy Murray. Now, Purcell had a terrible run coming into Toronto. He had lost he's lost the last 6 matches on the trot. He hasn't got past the first round since the French Open, and he's come to Toronto. He's gone through 2 qualifying matches. He played very, very well. And then he produced the shock of the tournament so far. Well, not really on the form book, but on the odds, definitely. When he beat the local player, Felix Auger-Aliassime, who's having a terrible time at the moment. Purcell won in straight sets against Felix there, which was really hard to see for the form of the Canadian. He's up against Andy Murray. Andy Murray come through relatively easy, especially in the second set. The first set, he struggled a little bit against Sonego, but in the second set, he bageled him. And Murray's playing well, but we all know that Murray can play really well and just run on empty at one stage. The conditions are going to be warm here, 4 p.m. in the afternoon. It's going to be very, very hot. Purcell has looked very different from the player he has been in recent months here in Toronto. He's had the advantage of playing qualifying as well. He's plus 250 to upset Andy Murray. Must be confident after beating Auger-Aliassime. And Murray is minus 355. Now, Murray is a favourite on the handicap. On the spread, he's a minus 4.5 favourite at plus 104. And the total here is 21.5. They have met once before. And Murray beat Purcell in 2022 on grass in Newport. But Purcell did take the opening set from him, and the overs would have cashed in that match. What do you think of this one, Sean? Because I think the conditions will help Purcell with the time that the match has been played with the heat. I think Murray is always a player that I want to fade once he has a couple of wins, because I don't think he has the longevity to play deep in a tournament. And the only thing that's putting me off is Purcell's form coming into this event.
Yeah, I mean, there were reasons for Purcell's lack of form. I mentioned, I think, a couple of times on this show that he had a really bad ankle injury, which has been his problem since the French Open, really. He said about that, great win against Felix. Second time he's beaten Felix, actually. He beat Felix in the Olympics as well last year. So after the match, Purcell said, and I quote, "I got some treatment with a doctor after Wimbledon. Then I took these first 3 weeks to play tournaments and get experience at tour level rather than training. So I wasn't ready these last 3 weeks. But Saturday night and Sunday morning, I pulled up really well, surprisingly. So I'm ready and I'm fresh." So that's what he said after the Felix match. And it does sort of tally in with what we've seen from Purcell with that injury that he's had for a long time. So his lack of results he's explained it there. He wasn't really ready to compete. He was just trying to get himself in a match ready situation. anyone that hasn't seen Max Purcell play, he's got a very unusual style. Likes to slice not only the backhand, but he likes to slice the forehand as well. And I don't think Murray was really ready for it when they met in Newport last year on the grass, but he's definitely going to be ready now. That's a big advantage for Murray. Murray, we know, is a very, very effective, one of the best players in the wind, and it was very, very windy yesterday. He used that to his advantage against Sonego. Sonego didn't adapt at all. He was still trying to go for the lines, which is very difficult to do in the wind, and that kind of explains the bagel set. Murray was just giving him not short balls, but slightly short balls, so that Sonego would take the bait and go for the lines and miss, which is what he did. So that tactic worked out perfectly for Murray. I think Purcell, away from that sort of serve and the volley and that sort of quirky slice style, hasn't really got that much power, off the ground strokes. I think it's a matchup that can catch people out. I think it was perfect conditions for him against Felix because, as I said, it was windy and it works well in those conditions. If you're just slicing it and just keeping the ball low and tempting the bigger hitter into small margin shots, which Felix fell into that trap as well, that works great. But I probably won't be as windy today. Murray is familiar with the style. I think this one should go the way of Andy Murray. Well, he didn't have too much of a taxing match yesterday, 7-6, 6-love. The other thing I like about this matchup for Murray is, Purcell will probably try and come to the net. Murray loves nothing better than lobbing or passing a guy at the net. He loves that. I think this is going to take Murray to either be not up to it physically, as you mentioned. That's possible, with Andy Murray at this stage of his career. But on the matchup, I would expect, Murray having experienced this matchup before, I would expect Murray to win this one. I can't see Purcell winning it unless Murray has a physical letdown or has one of his occasional bad days, which he does at this stage of his career. I think that's what he's going to need for Purcell to win the match.
Murray is -355. So they're the four matches today in the afternoon from 4 p.m. Eastern time. That starts off with Murray against Purcell, and the last match on call is 8:20 p.m. Eastern time, Giron against Rune, and that is where our only official pick for Wednesday's evening matches on the second round in Toronto is. And Sean, our official pick is
Marcos Giron to win a set. So plus 1.5 sets on the set handicap at 2.28 plus 128 with Bet Rivers.
Plus 128, Marcus Giron to win a set against Holger Rune, who looks very, very low in the betting or high in the betting for the Americans at -$5. Remember, there are 4 ways to follow us here on Betting Weekly Game Bet Match. You can download the podcast Betting Weekly Game Bet Match. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. It's only been going a couple of weeks, and we're doing really well on subscribers, but we want to get more. There's going to be some brilliant content there, not only on the tennis, but also the European soccer seasons just about to start this weekend with action in Spain, France, and the Premier League returns. Some great podcasts on there on the futures in those leagues, and also the best bets on week 1, which will be dropping tomorrow on Thursday. That's it for this week for me and Sean on the tennis. We'll be back on Sunday looking at the tournament in Cincinnati, another big tournament. So all the tennis action is done this week. Sean, enjoy the rest of your week. Have a great time. And we'll be back tomorrow with more football action, soccer action. It's all about soccer now. So make sure you subscribe and also give us a follow on our Instagram and our Twitter account @BecauseWeWin. Take care and good luck. And also remember to check out the early podcast where we have all of the early matches a day in Toronto featured. So 2 podcasts a day, one of them with the early matches and this one here with the later matches. So whatever we have, we've got 3 official picks, lots of leans, and hopefully cash lots and lots of tickets. Take care.